Tampa Garden Club and our nearly 400 members. We are just so delighted to see our room filled, our Tampa Garden Club filled with our community. That's part of our mission, and we're thrilled to have you all here tonight for this event. I just wanted to quickly thank our volunteers who are here participating in the event. We couldn't do this without you. Wanted to thank our candidates for showing up tonight. We really appreciate that. We look forward to hearing from you. And our security team that's just making sure everything goes off without a hitch. So without further ado, I wanted to introduce Marlin Anderson, the great organizer of this event. Thank you. Excuse me.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Marlin Anderson. I'm the organizer of this event. And I would like to start the evening with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone understand? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we have the South Tampa Candidate Forum for City Council, co-sponsored by 26 different organizations and associations throughout South Tampa, representing a population of over 50,000 residents. The purpose of this event is to educate South Tampa residents on the various candidates, their positions, and so that they can make an informed decision at election time. This is my 7th South Tampa Candidate Forum that I've organized. And thank you. And I have never seen South Tampa as fired up as this. And look at what we got here. There's 250 seats in this hall here. They're pretty much all filled. The most I ever had at one of these forums was like 200. I mean, this could very well be the biggest city council forum in the history of Tampa, right here. So, and thank you all for showing up. We know it's late in the election cycle, but you got to do the right thing. And so the thing that I think what's happening here is, there's supposed to be this thing about government for the people. And I think there's a little bit too much of government for special interests. And that is, I think, right? I mean, that's, and we got to do something about that, and that's why you're here. Now, the way this works is there's 5 districts on the stage. We didn't want to have two different forums and break this all up. We got all of the candidates were invited, all 20 of them were invited tonight. And we have districts 4 and 6, which are sitting on the front. Okay, these are the ones that directly represent South Tampa. And then we have districts 1, 2, and 3, and these, they represent what's citywide. But keep in mind, even though the ones in the back are citywide, they vote at city council meetings, okay? And you can vote for them. And, so when an issue comes up, a South Tampa issue, they'll be voting right along with all the rest of the city council members. So it's really important for you to listen to everybody tonight, okay? And so so just choose wisely. For the candidates, I want to thank you all for throwing your hats in the ring, for doing it. It's very commendable. And we had invited 20 candidates, and it looks like we've got everybody but 2 that didn't make it. Okay, there's 2 of them. Charlie Miranda and Janet Cruz were both feeling ill today, and they notified me today they couldn't make it. So that happened. Okay, and I'd like to thank again Jeff Patterson from News Channel 8 for once again being the moderator. Where's Jeff? Oh, there you are. Jeff has been a moderator for every one of these forums. Okay, so this is his 7th time too. He does a great job. And then And a video of this entire event is going to be on YouTube, which I'll try to get posted tomorrow. Okay, now I want to do something. You're going to have to be patient with me because this is a 100% volunteer-driven event. Nobody's getting paid here. And I want to express my thanks to the various organizations and neighborhood associations that made this large turnout possible, which actually is starting to look like standing room only. I see people standing over there on the side. So here they are in alphabetical order. Dana Gordon, Ballast Point. Meg Hines, Bayshore Beautiful. Catherine Durkin, Bayshore Condominium Council. Donna Day Smith, Bayshore Gardens. Pete Trela, Bayside West. Ron Sparks, Beach Park. Michelle Cisco, Beach Park Women's Club. Steve Helting, Belmar Shores. Sally Harris, Coburg Bayou. We got a lot of these guys. Susie Moreland, Coburg Bayou. Janice Davis, Davis Islands. Stephanie Pointer, Candy Sunday South, and FAN, that's Tampa Homeowners Association of Neighborhoods, for those of you not familiar with FAN. Elena Sanchez Coates, GFWC Tampa Women's Club. Chris Kosher, Golfview. Jean Strohmeyer, Intra-Bay South of Gandy. Patrick Crouch, New Silver Beautiful. Sandra Gugino, Palmacia Pines. Mike McNabb, Palmacia West. Beth Ann, the Valavan area, Parkland Estates. All right. Callie DeNoe, Port Tampa. Paige Gonzalez, Sunset Park. There she is over there. Hey, Paige. Okay, John Amateus, Swan Estates. Paula Beckley, Tampa Garden Club. And, yeah, let's hear it for Paula Beckley. And Tom Conley, Virginia Park. There's Tom right there. Hey, Tom. I'd like to also acknowledge the committee that produced the forum. That includes Paula Beckley, who I just mentioned, Paula Perry, who is in charge here tonight. Yeah, Paula. Carol Ann Bennett of Virginia Park, and Stephanie Poyer of Gandy Sunday South, and Dan. All right. Now, we have a selection committee consisting of Dana Gordon, Meg Hines, and Michelle Valero, and they are, I think, safely ensconced behind those double doors in there. Okay, so nobody can, it's sort of like a jury, I guess, or there they are. All right. Okay, and then way in the back, we have Jay Lenny, past president of Colbert Heights. He's a videographer. Great guy, he's really good. He's from Speaker Tech. Thanks again, Jay, you did a great job. And Elena Sanchez Coates will be the photographer. Tom Conley of Virginia Park is the timekeeper, right there. Financial contributions, we have the Tampa Garden Club, Sunset Park, Palmacia West, and Davis Islands. So all of them that contributed to pay for the food. And hey, you got free admission and food in this hall, this beautiful hall. And okay, I'd also like to thank the GFWC Tampa Women's Club for the baked goods. I guess some of you have tried that out in the back there. All right. And I would like to give a special acknowledgement to the Tampa Garden Club for the use of these beautiful facilities. Okay, so now on to the forum. Okay, so to help you identify the candidates in their districts, I prepared a map, copies of which I believe you all have been distributed. If you don't have them, I guess there's still ones available. We have districts, I think we said 4 and 6 is in the front, 4 is on the left there. Just sort of have it in numerical order. And then this is District 1 in the middle, candidates. And then in the back, we have Districts 2 and 3. Okay? All right, good. All right, so we got 2 pre-prepared questions, which will be answered by all candidates. After the second question, all questions will come from the audience. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm now going to turn over the event to our moderator, Jeff Patterson of News Channel 8, who will start off by providing the ground rules to the candidates. Jeff?
Thank you very much. And thanks, Marlin, for working so hard to put this together. I am going to pass this microphone now down to you, Mr. Carlson, because we're going to start down there with opening statements, and I'm hoping... Look at that, he can turn on the mic. Okay. Would you pass that down to Mr. Carlson? We'll start down with you in a minute as soon as I read the ground rules and everything like that within a 1-minute opening statement. Hi, neighbors. I can say that now because we have a new location, and I live pretty close to here, and I've been a part of this community for 35 years at Channel 8. It doesn't seem possible, but here I am. I'd like to recognize a couple of familiar faces I saw in the crowd tonight because I'm really, we're honored that they're here. Pam Bondi is our Attorney General. Pam Bondi worked very hard at the State Attorney's Office here for many years, and it's great that Pam is here tonight. She's very interested to hear what all of you have to say and not me, so I'm going to move on. John Dingfelder is our City Councilman. He's City Councilman here for 10 years. And so if I didn't notice anybody else in the crowd, forgive me. But I do want to say one thing about politics in general and civility for tonight, because my sister is an elected official in her county in Maryland. She served her county for 23 years, and she won her last election by 83% of the vote. Despite me trying to, for 4 hours, trying to talk to her to run for State House, she said this is her last election. She's not running again because politics, unfortunately, has become so acrimonious. I think I'm really proud that all of you are here tonight because this is a fundamental part of American politics, isn't it? We come, we listen to ideas, we listen to an exchange about ideas, and I think we can disagree on perhaps ideas or concepts or the way to get things done, but I'm hoping we can all show each other civility tonight. We can be respectful in our listening to the answers that these folks give, because they've been generous enough to give their time tonight to participate in this, and I think we owe them the respect to just be able to listen and be cordial to one another. To that end, please let me ask you to turn off your cell phones. They only get 1 minute, and we have a lot of candidates up here tonight, and we want to have them have continuity of thought, so please, each one of you, look at your cell phone, make sure it's either off or silent tonight. Each candidate, as I mentioned, will have 1 minute to be able to address the audience. The candidates will be speaking. They'll have index cards, and we'll have questions that have been pre-prepared, and we'll have questions I hope that we can get to from you. I do have to point out Channel 8 has a 4 a.m. newscast, so I have to be out of here at a certain point. And so do you, I'm sure. Following the speeches, we're going to have opening remarks for 1 minute from each candidate, then we'll get to the prepared questions. We do have our timekeeper tonight who is going to make sure that everybody sticks to their 1 minute, and I'm hoping I don't have to stand up and say, time! Because I'm sure everybody will notice our timekeeper here and stick to that. So with that said, what we're going to do for our opening statements, each 1 minute, we're going to start with Mr. Carlson, then we're going to move this way, and then we're going to go this way, and then we'll come back this way. And then we'll repeat the same format with questions. The second question, we'll reverse that and go this way. I'll point it out as we're going along. So why don't you stand up where you are, and each of you, if you would just pass the microphone to each other, gently, so that we can keep this going. So thank you all very much. And Mr. Carlson, each one of you stand up at your location, give your opening statement, and we'll begin with you, sir.
Hi, I'm Bill Carlson, your Tampa City Council member for this district, District 4. I started as a neighborhood activist. I was involved with many of you in protecting our neighborhoods in South Tampa. That rolled into creating, with many others, Cafe con Tampa, which is an open source collaborative effort to bring the community together. Since then, we've also created Tampa Arts Alliance and an arts community in Ybor City. All of my philosophy is everything should be inclusive and collaborative, and we move forward with that. My priorities are helping build better neighborhoods. I've gotten the city to do planning and other kinds of activities related to the neighbors. You know I've been solving specific problems as well. Also working heavily on affordable housing. Very importantly, spending the money of the city wisely. If you see me disagree with somebody, most of the time it's because they're spending money on things they shouldn't be spending on. I would need your help. Tomorrow we have a city council meeting, and we're going to be talking about toilet to tap, and we're also going to be talking about supporting public safety master plan, and potentially adding more police officers. We need your help to be able to do that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Casper, and I'm a lifelong Tampanian. I'm running for City Council District 4, and I'm running on a pro-police platform. I'm very excited to be able to hear that tomorrow we do have the police on the agenda, so we can get 200 more officers on the street, so we can get our city streets back to where we want them. So I'm running on a platform. I'm a businessman. I get things done. I actually built and still operate the Oxford Exchange, where Cafe Con Tampa is actually hosted every week. So I believe in getting things done. We're going to get the police, we're going to get the support to the police, and then we're going to get to the roads next. So a vote for me is a vote to get things done. Thank you.
Good evening, folks. Thank you all for turning out. My name's Rick Fifer. I'm running for District 6. South Tampa is the farthest edge of District 6, so a lot of you don't know me, but I've been very involved in Seminole Heights for 30 years. So a lot of land use, traffic, all the different issues that you're dealing with, I'm still familiar with them because I've been volunteering 30 years doing stuff like that. My concerns are definitely wanting to make sure that pure dies once and for all. And I also would like to make sure that we move together, more unified as a city. I don't want to say I'm all about building sidewalks, but we have a dearth of sidewalks. When I walked some of the neighborhoods, like when I walked Gray Gables, what's budgeted for sidewalks? You could spend just fixing Gray Gables that amount that's budgeted this year. So I want to make sure that we have a city that works for all of us. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nicole Payne. I'm running for City Council District 6. My background has been in business, finance, and education. Many of you don't know me because I'm a political newcomer, but I spent a lot of my time growing careers of young college graduates and learning how to become mortgage loan officers. Also, I've helped women and minority-owned businesses with business plans, SBA financing, micro-lending, as well as I've been a first-time homebuyer educator. So I've loaned my talents to those in the private sector, and now I'm coming to help those in the public sector, and my platform is affordable housing, development, and mental health as a first aid.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hoyt Prindle. I'm running for Tampa City Council in District 6, and I'm running to bring results-oriented leadership to Tampa City Council, because ultimately that's what you as voters deserve. People that are going to go on City Council and get things done. I've been fortunate in my private sector career, whether solving complex problems for my clients as a lawyer, or in my days as a commercial lender delivering $140 million in SBA-approved funds to local businesses, that I've been fortunate enough to get stuff done and actually deliver results for those people in the private sector. I'm glad we talked a little bit about bringing stability back to Tampa politics. If you elect me to City Council, I promise you I will not bring Washington, D.C. style politics to Tampa. I will be laser focused on the issues and solely the issues, not personalities. And I think that's very important, because ultimately, even if we disagree with some of these people on stage, we're going to have to work with them to get things done. And that's important, and that's what you deserve as a community. Housing and transportation are my two most important issues. Raise your hand if you took a bus to get here today. And that is why I'm running, to help fix those issues. Thank you, among other reasons.
Hi, good evening. My name is Chase Harrison. I'm the only veteran that's running for City Council, and I'm certainly the only retired police officer running in District 1. My background is an intelligence analyst in the Air Force. I provided safety and security to our nation for 2 decades. I then became a Tampa police officer, where I continued my community involvement by being a police officer, providing safety and security to you, protecting you, your family, and your property. I'm all on board with Mr. Casper when it comes to law and order, and I am the candidate in District 1 for that. I grew up in a small town in Texas, and the Air Force brought me to Tampa. I've made it my home since 1996. Like I said, once again, I'm wanting to bring my experience as an Air Force intelligence guy and a Tampa police officer to work for you on City Council. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Clendenin. I am a resident of South Tampa, but I'm running citywide. I grew up in Orlando. I'm a Floridian. I grew up in Central Florida, and I chose to move over to Tampa 37 years ago. I've owned 2 homes in South Tampa. I raised my kids here, my son Tyler and my daughter Brianna. Probably some of your kids went to school, either Mabry, Coleman, or Plant with them, and now I've got a 2.5-year-old granddaughter, Zelda. A retired air traffic controller. I worked at Tampa International and managed the radar approach control and the control tower there. So I know something about making function out of dysfunction, and I look forward to trying to do that on Tampa City Council. You know, I grew up in Orlando, so I know what planning and lack of sight can do to a city. And I'm running to be a neighborhood person. I want to make sure that Tampa doesn't turn into Orlando. Let's bring that pendulum back. We've let a little bit of it go. We need to bring it back. We need to for single family neighborhoods, and let's keep Tampa special. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Just you being here tonight is going to make you an informed voter. My name is Joseph Citro. Please take one of my cards, citroforcouncil.com. Besides the things that I've done for you for 16 years being a part of city on many boards, I'm going to work even harder than I have for the last 4 years. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to get a closing statement, and everybody up on here knows how hard it is to run. But I need to thank someone in the audience, and that's my lovely girlfriend back there. Sweetheart, I told you it was going to be a roller coaster ride. I told you that people were going to say nasty things about me. Thank you. Thank you for being my rock. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Joseph Citro, Citro for Council. I am your chairman of Tampa City Council, District 1.
Hi, my name is Sonja Brookins, and you can go to my website at www.sonjabrookins.com to find out more information. I am a city girl. I was born and raised here. My grandmother took me through Ybor City as a child because she had to get her Cuban coffee. And on my father's side, they brought me over here by the water, and they taught me a lot of lessons. My background is as an academician, as well as in medical. That threw me off. So, just threw me off. But my platform is about affordable housing, of course, and we have to focus on the middle class. Let's stop pushing the middle class out, because that's where it's all about, what it's all about. It's also on equity. We have to start looking at what we're doing here and make sure that the City Council is representative of the people it serves. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Derewenko. I'm running for District 2. It's a citywide position. I have a unique background. I was a photographer for many years here in Tampa before starting a small irrigation company. It's essentially my family business. In 2008, the last housing crisis we had pushed me and my dad into retirement and me to sell my company. I was recruited to California to work for the largest irrigation manufacturers in the world. We currently focus on sustainability and efficiency in irrigation products. I work in the agriculture and the landscape industry as well. And I'm hoping to bring a contractor's perspective to council and focus on some of the water challenges we have going forward. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Guido Maniscalco. Thank you for allowing me the honor and privilege to have served on Tampa City Council since 2015. Because of term limits, I'm running now for a citywide seat, so I'm on everybody's ballot, and I hope I can count on your vote. So, having been born and raised in Tampa, I've seen a lot of changes, and I often say, I look to the past to build to the future. And I say that because we have to protect our neighborhoods from intrusive overdevelopment. We have to keep the makeup and the character of our neighborhoods and preserve Tampa for what it is as we move into the future. I am a past president of my neighborhood association before I got elected over in West Tampa, and since being elected, I've found and allocated, with the support of council and the mayor, millions of dollars to go towards our parks. More recently, the park on Clark, for those that are familiar, that's that's underway. $2 million almost to Vila Brothers Park. Funding down in Port Tampa for another historic playground next to the Port Tampa AME Church. And most importantly, working with the previous administration to save taxpayers millions of dollars while we still address flooding in the city of Tampa. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Sorry for my tardiness. Yeah, we need new traffic transportation because traffic is terrible. My name is Robin Lockett. I am running for the citywide seat, City Council District 2. And I'm sorry, I'm crass because I'm trying to regroup. But my name is Robin Lockett. I am a organizer by trade. I believe in people. Oh, my 30 seconds. My name is Robin Lockett. We'll talk later.
Good evening. I'm Mike Suarez. I'm running for Tampa City Council District 2. I served proudly on Tampa City Council from 2011 to 2019. And all elections are about value. What do we value as citizens of Tampa? We all want good streets. We all want safe and beautiful parks for our kids and our grandkids to play in. We all want to ensure that the services that we provide as a city are delivered efficiently and effectively. And we all want to make sure that we live in great neighborhoods. As your city councilman previously, I helped to promote and create the Painted Streets program, which has been enhanced and made more with this administration. In addition, I helped to consistently vote for flooding alleviation in this area. And we created and promoted a ordinance to help find human trafficking victims. Vote for me, MikeSuarez.com. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
My name is Alan. I'm running for District 3 at large. A little bit about me. It's kind of hard to start. I'm from a military background. My family served over 20 years. You know, uncles served 30. My public service was education. I've been in education for over a decade, teaching at K through 12. So kindergarten through 8th, I was teaching our art program, creative curriculum. And then at the high school level, I was teaching CTE, which is career technical education, I'm sorry. So this whole campaign experience is something that's new for me, and I'm learning on the go, but my platform, and I understand affordable housing and transportation and all these different issues that we have, but I've talked to so many different people, and I would say the underlying theme for this election for all of us is just increasing the quality of life in the city of Tampa. That's the biggest thing. There's a lot of issues that we're facing, but we have to start prioritizing these issues and at the same time getting these things done instead of making empty promises. So my name is KJ Allen. You can go on my website at kjallen.com.
Good evening. My name is George Feshev, and I am running for Tampa City Council District 3 to make our city safer. Safety is my first priority. I believe it should be yours too. First priority. Without safety, we cannot have our economy growing. We cannot enjoy our life in a beautiful city in the bay, walk in our parks, sidewalks. I don't even say about public transportation. The other point in my program is to keep taxes low. I will advocate that those taxes never be increased again for any kind of purpose. Something about me, I'm not new to the area. I live here about 10 years. My daughter grew up here. I don't want her to live in fear of another shooting happen in a neighborhood and sitting around the kitchen table and her head being shot in the head. So this is how I got my nickname, The Hunted. George, The Hunted. You can Google me on Facebook. Running for Tampa City Council District 3. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Councilwoman Lynn Hurtak from District 3. Thank you. I have been your councilwoman for only 9 months. I took over after John Dingfelder resigned, so many of you don't know me as well. But I'll tell you that I've been working for Tampa since moving back here. I served for several years on my neighborhood board, including as vice president for Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association before I joined council. Before that, I served as the city's Charter Review Commission, along with council members Bill Carlson, Joe Citro, and Orlando Goods, which is the city's constitution. Looking over that and making some changes. In addition to that, after that, I served on the city's Variance Review Board for 2.5 years. So land use is something that I know a lot about. If you want to know, my main platform is affordable housing, transportation, and sustainability, mainly making sure that there's no more wastewater in our aquifer.
My name is Jose Vazquez. I'm the Latino on this race for City Council. Well, I'm running for City Council for one simple reason. Because I'm involved in so many campaigns and I continue to see the same mismanagement on the City of Tampa. I'm running because I know that we need more police officers. I know we need to enforce our team of response. But how we got to do it if the elected official not listen to the community? So I represent you, and I hope you can give me your vote for we can promote that agenda for have a better city. My name is Jose Vazquez. Please go to Google, Jose Vazquez, Tampa. Whatever you found in Google is true. My website, www.josefortampa.com. Thank you.
And Mr. Vazquez, if you just keep the microphone, because what we're going to do now is we have 2 prepared questions. I'm going to read those, and we'll start with you, and we'll go that way, kind of reversing the way we just did this to start this out. Each one of you will answer the same question to start. The second question will follow, and then we have been passing out index cards to each one of you so that you can then fill those out. Our panel will select questions from our audience members as time allows for all 20 of you to answer. So let's get to it. You just received a letter from the mayor regarding reusing wastewater. The City of Tampa administration has repeatedly proposed injecting 50 million gallons daily of treated toilet water, now calling it purified water, into the aquifer, to then be mixed into the Hillsborough River, which will ultimately be part of our drinking water. Consequences to the aquifer and to our health are unknown. If elected, how will you respond to this proposal? Mr. Vazquez.
How many seconds? Thank you. Since 2012, we got this issue that the City of Tampa tried to push. Today they named a pure program. I can tell you this. I'm against about this project because that's not the solution. I can tell you this because I live on East Tampa, very close to the melting company, copper industry, one of the biggest pollution in our bay. I can tell you that because I know the problem because I'm well trained as a first responder. The solution is create more water treatment plants for we can reuse that water. But bring that against to the natural aquifer, that's wrong.
I stopped toilet to tap. I stopped Pure. We made sure we're not putting any more money into it. In fact, we're going to talk about it tomorrow in a workshop. So tune in to Tampa City Council for that. But no, we aren't going to do that. We don't need to do that. We don't have a water shortage in Tampa. We don't. Really, the first thing we need to do is focus on conservation. Because if we think we have a water shortage, let's start conserving. It's way cheaper than the $6 billion it's going to take to build this thing that we don't need. It's absolutely something that no one can figure out. I go door to door, people say, why are we doing this? Several of you asked me that tonight, and I said, I don't know. But I can promise you that we aren't going to put that. We're not going to put wastewater in the aquifer. We absolutely don't know what's going to happen to that. The PFAS, the PFOA, the nutrients, we don't know what that will do to our aquifer. We don't know if we pull water out, if everything's still going to be clear. Thank you.
I'll be short. Not for pure. That's all. We don't need it. It's too much as a capacity, and we have to pay for all of this once we don't need it, and maybe in the next 30 years we will need that capacity. Second thing is we don't have technology yet to dissolve those chemicals and hormones, whatever they going to be injected down to the ground. And the third is a human factor. Once we have the magical hole 300 feet down, how we can control what goes there? Thank you.
Bravo.
I would tell Mayor Casper, I hear concerns when it comes to water, because if you do a little research, you'll definitely understand that when it comes to water globally, nationally, there is water scarcity. But I just feel like the area is not ready for that. If you do your research, you'll see that California has already implemented something. I feel like the toilet to tap was just rebranded in the wrong way. But there's only so many options that you can do to secure water. We might have to look at water-rich regions in regards to transporting water, and we also have to keep in mind that we talk about developing pipelines that can essentially destroy, our environment. So moving forward, that's something that we should definitely be concerned about. I just don't think we're ready for that. I mean, toilet to tap sounds crazy, I'm not gonna lie, but that's something that we have to take in consideration, because water scarcity is definitely something happening. So maybe it's adjusting our agriculture, how we do our agriculture, like Ms. Hurtak said, conserve water, so on and so forth.
I remember someone told me that even the tears of Leonardo da Vinci still exist in the water system. Now think about that. The reason why is that water recharges itself. We have Mother Nature to help us with this. Up in Lake Apopka, they created what they call a water kidney that helps to clean water that came out of the river up there. The Rodman Dam was built, and they built that in order to make sure that they cleaned the water. We can do something like this here. Why are we going to go to Mother Government to solve a problem that Mother Nature wants to solve? We have to make sure that this program is redone. Pure is dead. It has to be flushed just like every other bad idea. Thank you.
If you look at my brochure on the table, it says voted no to toilet to tap, and I'm proud to say that, and I'm proud to have the endorsement of the Sierra Club, whose word I take very, very seriously. The problem is this: when we put something into our aquifer, we can't reverse that process. The problem is, what if 20, 30, 40 years down the road, people start getting sick, we get a class action lawsuit, whatever it is. Sometimes the science is wrong. We've seen from nuclear power to DDT to so many things in our history. 4 out of 5 doctors recommend the great taste of whatever cigarettes. They were wrong, and we saw how many people were affected by it. We have to be very, very careful in what we do with our environment. Another panelist up here talked about water conservation. That's what maybe we need to do. And we need to protect not just the environment, but the health of this community. And be careful what we do, because we may go to a point of no return, and we will regret it. Thank you very much.
So how I would react if I got a letter from the mayor with that information. What I found interesting when I was attending this city council meetings, I tend to think that I am a person that is involved and understand and so forth. But when I heard toilet to tap, I was like, what? What? Pure. Sierra Club was down there. So how do we handle this? First, community involvement. A lot of people didn't know about it. So a lot of people wake up and find out something is going on when they're drinking it. Community involvement is important. Really researching and getting the information from other people that have done this, what they're trying to do, and following that diagram. I find with the administration, a lot of times they say that they follow information from another place, but then they take something out. And that's something would be the residue or thank you.
So I did an hour-long podcast on Pure this last Wednesday and did a lot of research in the area. The Pure Water projects exist across the country already. Some are successful. Toilet to Tap in Vegas is used every day. They drink toilet water. We're injecting water into 2 aquifers in North and South County in Hillsborough right now. So these solutions are being used. But one thing that gets hidden in Pure is the devastation we're about to do to our estuaries along the Hillsborough River that ultimately feeds the toxicity of the Hillsborough Bay. And so while Toilet to Tap is one of 4 or 5 different aspects of Pure, there are other problems with Pure. And we have salinity intrusion into the sulfur spring that we rely on for our river levels. So there's other parts of it that we need to tackle along with the Toilet to Tap aspects. We need to make sure systems that don't cost $6 billion, RO systems and membranes. There are solutions out there and proven technology. We just need to figure out a way to pay for it and figure out the best for our city.
If the battery's down on that mic, we might have to start passing this one and change out the batteries, but let's keep trying for now.
Okay, I can remember when I first ran for Soil and Water as a conservation supervisor, I received a phone call. I remember when Bill Carlson brought up the situation with the water. And I received a phone call from someone named Nancy Stevens, and she said, Doc, we got a problem. I need to know what your opinion is. And so my letter would be, I simply oppose it because of future generations. I have children and I have grandchildren. And I don't want us to do something that's going to affect my line. And I'm sure you all don't want that. We have to start looking in the future. And another thing that we haven't really discussed are the chemicals that are involved with the water. And I had a whole lot of meetings behind the restaurant, in the back of the restaurant, talking about tap to water. And it was not a good conversation. We discovered a lot of things that were just not good. So thank you very much.
No to Pure. No to aquifer injection. No forever chemicals, no heavy metals, no nitrates, no nothing going into our pristine aquifers. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking for your help. I'm going to use a dirty word that starts with P, and that's preemption. I want you to contact your state senators, your state representatives, and tell them to stop Senate Bill 64. Please tell them to leave your home rule alone and to stop forcing the city of Tampa to do something where we can govern our own selves. No to Pure, no to deep well injections.
Woo!
If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and you know what, it sounds crazy, it probably is crazy. So this notion of Pure is absolutely, as you hear from every candidate up here. But you know, there's one of us in our race that's been endorsed by the Sierra Club because of my long-standing opposition to it, and that's myself. I've been endorsed by the Sierra Club, I've been endorsed by the Tampa Bay Times, La Gaceta, and of course, one of my dear friends, John Dingfelder, and has endorsed my campaign as well. And it's because, you know, I went to school to be a geologist, I took some hydrology, I don't pretend to be a subject matter expert on things, but you know, I do have some common sense. And none of these notions that we're talking about make sense to me. We acquire our water in a regional process, and I suspect as we move down this line, one of my peers here on the stage are going to address this. We need to talk about water acquisition and water dispersion under the regional, using Tampa Bay water and all the resources that we have. There are options, there is science that's viable. This is not one of them.
Now that we got the endorsements out of the way, the only person I need is yours. Resoundingly, what you hear is no to Pure. This letter did get sent to the candidates from the mayor's office trying in this multifaceted program that they were dazzling us with, and nobody for a second, for all we could read. For the Pure, no to deep well injections. The aquifer is a precious thing that we possess in this state, and we don't need to be messing around with it at this point in our life. VoteChaseHarrison.com is my website. I didn't get a chance to plug that earlier because of time. But if you could, go there, read about me, see what we have plans for the city. And one of the main things is being proactive and not reactive. Thank you.
Mr. Derewenko said about Las Vegas, but I think Las Vegas's motto comes in appropriate here. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. We don't need to bring that to Tampa. That's why I'm proud to be endorsed by the Sierra Club as the only candidate in the District 6 race, along with Commissioner Kemp and Lockett, because I'm strongly against Pure and I'll be against it on City Council. And sometimes things just aren't that hard. Raise your hand in the audience if you're brave enough if you want Pure to pass. I don't see any hands. So why are we pushing a project that nobody in the public supports? Shouldn't happen. You can't do these kind of public works projects, especially, I know Bill will probably get into the specifics on the numbers, but this is a very, very expensive project. It's not cheap. And so why are we going to spend all this money on a project that's unproven, that we don't know if it's going to work, that puts forever chemicals in the aquifer, and that you don't support? The answer is we shouldn't, and I won't on City Council. Thank you.
It appears that we have almost a consensus up here. So there really isn't anything new to add other than no. So if the letter came to me, I would tell the mayor respectfully that as a leader, I'm sure you welcome challenges. And so what we need to do is go back to the drawing board. We need to look at other towns that are successful. Conservation is another. We need to look at maybe housing other sources of water, but we cannot go ahead with the Pure. It is unpure, and as City Council, that is something that I would resoundingly stand with my council mates and say no.
My answer is no to Pure, and that letter, I did get one of those letters from the mayor trying to tell me as a candidate how I should talk about Pure. You can go to my website, rickfifer.com, and I've got several blog posts that actually talk about this position, because I actually started researching it, and the more I researched it, the more certain I was that this is a really bad idea, but more than I can talk about in a minute's time. But if you go to my website, you can also read my impacts on that. And one of the things to keep in mind, one of the candidates in this race has pushed this for more than 20 years, and he's not here tonight. Thank you.
So I think we've covered Pure. I'm against it. But the thing Mr. Citro brought up, I think is a good point, that the state law, we are out of compliance discharging the water that we are into the bay right now, and it's not until 9 years. So we will be out of compliance in state law. And Joe mentioned, lobby your state, your state reps, your state senators, and that's fine. But right now, the law is the law, and I think that speaks to another issue that we have, and that's transportation, right? When we're not working with our state officials, when we're not working with our federal officials, we're not getting the funds, we're not getting the action in this area, and honestly, I think transportation is a much bigger priority than the water. But we do have to have people on City Council that know how to work with these officials, that know how to access these funds, and that know how to get this kind of work done. So I would just want to point that out. Thank you.
So none of you want Pure or toilet to tap, but what you do want is roads paved, sidewalks, affordable housing, the parks cleaned up, and a whole bunch of other things. But this city council, our city council, which actually, despite what we've heard, actually works very well together, we go to the administration and say, our constituents want this money. And they say, we don't have money. But there's tens of millions of dollars, eventually billions being spent on this project. And we've stopped it 3 times. The first time it was $300 million. The second time they brought it back and renamed it, I said, because I'm a business person, I want to know the total cost over 30 years. 2.1 to 6.3 billion. So a neighborhood leader brought it up at a neighborhood meeting to the water department, and the guy laughed and said, no, it's only a few $100 million. So I pointed that out at a city council meeting, and I got a scathing letter from the head of public works who said, why are you misleading the public by telling them the total cost instead of just the capital cost, because the capital cost is the only thing we should talk about. And I said, no, the public deserves to know the truth. They deserve transparency and accountability for their money.
I think what we'll do, Mr. Carlson, is we'll start back down here with Mr. Prindle. We'll go that way so that we can give everybody a fair shake here. It's still 1 minute, and I'm just going to move on to the next question. It was prepared by our our host tonight. The comprehensive plan states that South Tampa must have the lowest growth rate in the city due to its unique geographic heuristics. Yet, City Council has been repeatedly approving rezonings for the highest possible density. In most cases, this is for multifamily and requires multiple waivers, reduction of setbacks, and the removal of trees. If elected, how will you protect South Tampa's unique character and ensure our safety and quality of life?
Well, I think one thing we have to remember in terms of pure is South Tampa has serious environmental issues with climate change. I mean, anybody that drives around South Tampa after a heavy rainstorm knows that it's very difficult to get around. I remember Rona and near Hines and El Prado that, you know, I couldn't get home some days because McDill was flooded, because Dale Mabry right by Henderson was flooded. And so we need to ensure that when we reform the comprehensive plan and land development code, which needs to be done, and everybody agrees on that the land development code is an utter nightmare, we need to ensure that South Tampa is protected and that you know, when there is growth in South Tampa, it is sustainable. The infrastructure is there, and that includes with police and fire. Growth is important, and I'm pro-growth, but bad growth is just as bad as no growth. And that's something that we need to remember on City Council when we're going through and looking at these problems. Thank you.
When it comes to growth, we have to make sure that we do it wisely. And so many of our communities are impacted, just as Prindle had stated, the economic development is impacted by our environmental issues. We see the flooding, we see the bad roads. Well, who's going to take care of it? And so what I propose is that we make sure that our developers have that in their plans. And when you put together the contract, you put together a contract that has phase gates. You do not go on to phase 2 if in phase 1 you haven't kept your promises. We want to make sure that the developers have a plan. They're the ones with the engineering degrees, they're the ones with the city planning experience, so they need to make sure that they commit to us what they promised, and by instituting phase gates each end of the way, you do not go all the way through the end of the contract without upholding your promises in phase 1, 2, or 3.
For the 30-some years I've lived in the city, I've watched repeatedly. I understand what you all suffer from in South Tampa with the flooding. And yet, I have watched council after council allow ever larger structures. If you pave over 80 and 90% of the permeable surface, there's no place for the water to go. We need to stop that, okay? And I appreciate the idea of trying to be a gatekeeper with contracts, but the city charter says that contracts are under the mayor's oversight, so we need to make sure what we do on council is something that can be enforced. I'm into protecting that, and by the way, I really do love the trees. My yard, you can barely see my house. Thank you.
My first time in front of City Council was fighting a developer, fighting for our neighborhood because of the development that was going in did not respect the neighborhood. It was not in keeping with the character, and we won that fight. Just goes to show I'm not for development, I'm not against development, but development does have to respect the unique character of Tampa. And we need to hold our developers accountable, and we do need a comprehensive plan review. So the development that is happening, it's happening in the way that we can afford it for it to happen, that it's not impacting the quality of life of our existing neighborhoods. Thank you.
The first thing which I pushed for and we've achieved in the last 4 years is to do better planning in our neighborhoods and to look at how people interact with it. Planning has to be around people, not buildings. And we're trying to re-educate the city staff on that. And the mayor's brought in some new planners. But the other thing is we need pro-neighborhood people on city council. And those of you who are watching, you know what's happened to the pro-neighborhood city council members over the last year. The fact that pro-neighborhood city council members have pro-development opposition now is because of what's going on. If you want to see what's happened to pro-neighborhood people, Google my former colleague John Dingfelder to see what's happened. So I would ask you all, please organize, choose wisely. We need pro-neighborhood people. I can't talk about specific votes, but for any of the neighborhood leaders, Have I supported the neighborhoods or not?
If you look at my poster, the first thing I have is environmental justice. When you mention environmental justice, most people think it's about the poor, the homes with the mold in it. But when you have a situation where you're removing trees and you have flooding going on, that's an environmental injustice. And we have to really look at that and bring experts to the table as well as the residents to come up with a comprehensive plan. We need those trees. Climate is real, guys. We saw that with the heat index that we just went through this summer. All of those things have a domino effect. So when you think about environmental justice, think about the injustice that's going on in your neighborhood. It doesn't have to be a Sulphur Spring. You got it right here in your own neighborhood. Thank you.
I live right down the street at Bayshore Towers, halfway in between here and Gandy. I know what everybody is experiencing here in South Tampa. I'm going to go back into preemption. The city came up with a wonderful tree ordinance to save our trees. Who preempted us? Thank you. We have terrible roads down here. 19% of the roads in the city of Tampa only belong to the city of Tampa. Bayshore, that's a county road. Bay to Bay, it's a county road. Gandy, it's a county road. We don't have the funds to repave those roads. As a matter of fact, there's a person in here that says, please don't repave my roads, because if you do that, the speeder's going to go faster. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time that we hold the developers. They're bringing the people here. They need to pay in for our infrastructure, for police, for fire, for other things. But ladies and gentlemen, there is a cause and effect. We hold the developers' feet to the fire, make them pay into the infrastructure. They're going to turn and put that cost back on the buyer.
Most of South Tampa is surrounded by water on three sides. Davis Islands and Harbor Islands surrounded by water on all sides. Our roads are full, West Shore's full, Manhattan's full, Himes is full, Del Mabry's full. Every road in South Tampa is full, and God knows our schools are full. South Tampa's closed. We are full to capacity. We have absorbed more than our fair share of density in the city of Tampa. There are plenty of smart areas to develop. I am absolutely in favor of development, but let's do it smart. And I'll tell you what, I haven't been serving in city council for the last 4 years. My question would be the person that has, how come you haven't done those things you just talked about? South Tampa's full. I promise you, I am going to follow in John Dingfelder's footsteps. I'm going to be a neighborhood advocate. We're going to pull the pendulum back. Thank you so much.
So are we at 100% density maxed out right now, right? The South Tampa is. So from a safety and security standpoint alone, this is my minute. Thank you. They're arguing maker, which is not a bad thing. But, what was my train of thought here? Oh, from a safety and security standpoint, with what's happened, a high lot, now that is 100% maxed out with people, occupancy, and vehicles. If there was a natural disaster like Hurricane Ian, if there was a man-made disaster at MacDill Air Force Base, or the port on either side of the channel, we could not evacuate this peninsula fast enough, even if we reverse flowed the Crosstown Expressway. Right? Right? So, we're done South Tampa for now. Right? I moved here and I was mesmerized in 1986 of how these certain intersections flooded if it rained more than 15 minutes. Then I became a policeman and I used to get dispatched to those same intersections. So why hasn't this been addressed? A slow process. Oh, we got to stop, but I got interrupted. Thank you.
I got a question for everybody. Do you know what is the CERT program? No? CERT. CERT is a Community Emergency Response Team. I'm certified on that field for so many years. Now, if I become a city council, I can tell you, can have the knowledge how to resolve that problems, that issues. Okay? Yes, we got a problem with flooding. We got a problem with the new developments. But the problem is, if the city councils read the Mooney Code and stop the developments, before they start constructions, we can have a better development in the area. So please, Monaco is very important to be reviewed, and that's what stands up. I want it working against the management of the city of Tampa, specifically co-enforcement.
When I joined council 9 months ago, this was already a huge issue. And so I wanted to find out how many developments we have. Like, what's planned in South Tampa? The city doesn't know. We have no count of how many units are already planned for this. Like, I don't know how that's possible, but until we know, we can't build more here. We have plenty of land and space and people that want development up in the central planning district. That's where we need to focus. We also need to not add more housing in coastal high hazard areas. These are issues. It's absolutely common sense. And so no, I am not interested in more development here. A, until we know what we already have coming, and B, until we've looked at coastal high hazard areas and see what we can do. And the answer is, there's not much we can do. So coastal hazard areas means we can't build here anymore.
We love South Tampa, everybody loves it, and that's the reason everybody want to come here. We need to preserve the beauty of South Tampa by saving the fabric of the way it is, because once we overbuild, nobody wants to stay here. Also, we need not to build in the low areas, because when the flooding comes, then the insurance company has to cover the damages, and then the insurance company increase the cost of all of your insurances to compensate what they just did. As a candidate, that's the most international experience. I can tell that this will happen. I've seen it in my early 20s when I graduated in Eastern Europe, and then I post-graduated of historic preservation in Athens, Greece, that this will happen. And I was surprised to find out back in this time that in Athens we cannot open a new hotel. You only can improve the existing one. So we have to have regulation to save the fabric and the beauty of South Tampa. Thank you.
Can you repeat that question for me, please?
Yes, I can. The comprehensive plan states that South Tampa must have the lowest rate of growth in the city due to its unique geographic characteristics. Yet, City Council has been repeatedly approving rezonings for the highest possible density. In most cases, this is for multifamily and requires multiple waivers, reduction of setbacks, and removal of trees. If elected, how will you protect South Tampa's unique character and ensure our safety and quality of life?
My name is KJ Allen. I'm running for District 3, which means at large. It essentially, we may have to start moving our money around when it comes to funding, because I know, like some of the other candidates said, and how you guys feel like South Tampa is closed, but there's also other areas like in East Tampa where it's scarce. There's nothing there. It's kids. They don't. When it comes to education, there's families, like there's nowhere to walk on the sidewalks. It's unsafe in those areas too. So if it's so dense in these areas, it might be, well, it is time to reconsider those areas, because they need a lot of help. They need a lot of this funding to get things done. So that would be my proposal, is if we can make some type of amendment, start funding these other areas so the South Tampa residents can start experiencing East Tampa, because there's a lot of good people in that area. There's a lot of restaurants you might like, a lot of businesses, small businesses. So it's time to start switching up the dynamic when it comes to Tampa, and not just solely South Tampa.
Having served for 8 years on council, the hardest you do is zoning and land development. I know that from the neighborhood that I've gone to, and I've gone to every neighborhood in the city over the course of my 8 years, is that is an issue everywhere. South Tampa is not unique in that sense, but it is unique in this. We were having a prompt development of lots and trees torn down overnight, and we had to come up with a tree canopy. We took
years, we worked with developers, we worked with the neighborhoods, we worked with the activists, and we came up with a great plan. Joe mentioned it a minute ago, preempted by the city, by the legislature. That person, by the way, that passed that bill is now a congressman. I'm not going to say that it's karma, but he actually tree. So I want you to know that South Tampa has to be looked at in terms of what. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you anyway.
I've been looking for a commonality in the microphone, and I don't see it. I'm sorry. So you all are doing an admirable job of dealing with this as best you can. You're also doing an incredibly great job of sticking to the 1 minute time frame. So I'm going to be quiet and let you do your thing, Mr.
Thank you very much. So you have to consider a few things with South Tampa and the South Peninsula, sea level rise and climate change. Somebody mentioned earlier that a developer said we want to make Tampa like Miami. I don't want to be like Miami. I'm born and raised here, and there's a reason I'm born, raised, educated, and I stayed here because Tampa is a good balance. Now, another gentleman just mentioned something very important. There's other parts of the city that have been ignored, that I call the land that time forgot. They're not getting these same amenities that the rest of the city is. If so many developers want to come here, fine. But there's other parts of the city that are in need of housing, in need of multifamily, in need of development, in need of economic growth. South Tampa is very unique because it's surrounded by water. And overdevelopment is bad. It's bad for the character of the neighborhood. It's bad for evacuation in times of hurricanes and other natural disasters. We have to think about all these things before we continue congesting and building this density that becomes dangerous. We're obviously not investing in transportation for that density, so we have to be very careful. Thank you.
Early on, one of the council stated that we have to, early on, one of the council members stated that we have to do smart development. I believe in smart development. One of the council members also indicated that we need to have more council members on staff, on the dais that are community focused, pro-community. I'm pro-community. I think that when the community comes out and they're concerned about something, it should be paid attention to. The things that's happening in regards to the building, how long ago was it approved, right? I think a lot of times council is handling things that have been approved previously by different administrations. But there has to be a way for that to stop, right? There has to be a way for that to be looked at. If it was good back then, is it still good now? Should it still be happening? So what was good back then may not be worthy right now. And that really has to be, you have to be able to change that or modify it.
To be clear, Hoyt, I don't want to drink poo water. But I was just using that as an example. So South Tampa, I see you're growing vertically down here off Bayshore. I'm in Ybor City, so we have very similar issues with the Channelside area with development. I have introduced HRMing developers, so I know that they can be very enticing. At the same time, we do need to act responsibly when we let developers come into our neighborhoods. I also agree with zoning. I don't think zoning's been done since 78, 88. You would know better than I would, but it hasn't been redone in a long time. That needs to be done considerably well. Preservation societies, but also council is the conduit between the public and this. So we're also, council is reliant on the community to help us in the buildings that we build. Thank you.
I know. Marlin Anderson put out this really great way to do questions. I'm probably giving him a heart attack by the way I do things, but we're just why don't we start down here with this next question. And this one is from an audience member. Again, each of you get a minute to answer this. I am 26 years old. I have lived in Tampa my whole life. I am currently in the market to buy my first home, but I am being priced out of the market due to the rise in home prices, high taxes, and high insurance costs. What is the plan to make housing more affordable so I don't have to move out of the city?
Thank you for the question. This is one of the things I'm focused on my agenda. All my colleagues and elected officials talking for so many years about affordable housing. But what is affordable for you? Oh development a project that we can paint in 7 years or 10 years. That can be affordable for you. Now, I remember back on the days when we got a lot of trailer parks on Hillsborough County, and now they disappear. Today they come back. You know what's the name? Tiny houses. Trailers. RV homes. So guess what? Let's start using the City of Tampa land and funding to create programs so we can support people who want to be property owners in 7 years, 10 years, and we can use that credit for that person can get a better affordable house in the future. So please, affordable housing is something we can afford, not what the development tries to sell to us.
I believe I talked to this gentleman earlier, and my answer was missing middle housing. That's what we are missing housing. We're missing first-time buyer housing. Do you remember your first house? How many of you are still living in that first house? Okay, awesome. But a lot of us sold that house and bought a bigger house when we started to have a family, and then bought a bigger house. What's happened now is we don't have anywhere for people to start their home ownership and then move up. We also don't have anything for folks who've lived in their house for a long time and now they're empty nesters. They have nowhere to sell and go. So we don't have that circular cycle that we need. So we need to build more types of housing and encourage people to realize that their first home might not be their last.
I share briefly my opinion about the taxes and the insurance costs also. We have to make sure we keep them lower because they affect our residents, especially at the beginning of their career and when they try to find the first house. Also, there are a lot of programs available and the people are not well informed about how government and local government and the state can support them as a first-time home buyers. Affordable housing should not mean a cheap housing. I bought some cheap places in Ybor City and I pay the price later. Cheap is no good. Okay, so don't go in the cheap. Educate yourself, especially the young people. Become competitive. People from California and New York and other blue states, they are fleeing, they're coming here in the thousands. They come here and for them $3,000 apartment is cheap. They are competitive. We need to be better. This is the way to go. Don't go cheap. Thank you.
We're just chugging along. I'm 31, so I'm at that. I can definitely understand your sentiments. I haven't bought my first home yet, but I would say if nothing else, Tampa is not the end-all be-all. Like sometimes you have to go away and then return and make sure everything's okay. But I would say the biggest thing is if you're a first-time homeowner, make sure your credit's right, so take care of that. Slowly start putting money away so that you can buy your first home. But if your heart is set on living in Tampa and you can't afford it yet, what I would recommend is find some friends, you guys all pitch in and buy your own home. I'm being honest, buy a house together. Maybe you can rent it out, and then you can flip that home and maybe bring a single family. That's just being honest, because it's happening, believe it or not. But Tampa's not the end-all be-all, but make sure if you are in the house, like if you're in the market for a home, make sure you're not making any crazy purchases and stuff like that when it comes time to buying your house, because all that's going to hit. So I would say definitely consider if Tampa's your forever home before you buy a home.
I'm telling you, you're doing something, Jeff. That's all I got to say.
Mike, you've known me long enough to know I wouldn't do that. So let's switch.
Exactly.
mics. Yeah, okay. Let's switch mics.
Let's figure it out. Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Actually, that's what they train you to do because, But anyway, it brought back memory. I bought my first house in 1991 in South Tampa. It cost $64,000. It was a 2-bedroom house. It was, I believe, 900 or 1,000 square feet. 7 years later, I sold that house and went to a bigger house. And again, it is exactly as Lynn Hurtak said. That's what happens. You grow a family. We had 3 boys. We started to get even bigger. The problem we have is that land is expensive in this place. That's the biggest issue. And when I ran previously, I talked about having land banks where the city owns some land and actually allows builders to come in and build houses that are not owned by folks. They can live in the house, they can sell the house, they can't sell the land. It's still owned by the city. We need to think about ideas like that. And in addition, we need to get out of Hart and build houses along, building along the transit corridors so that we can have more housing.
All right. Let's keep with that, Mike. It seems to be working better.
So some of the things that we can do is look at our land development code, update it, change it to allow for more accessory dwelling units in certain parts of the city. They're allowed in places like Seminole Heights and whatnot to allow people that own a single family home that have the land to build an accessory dwelling unit, a mother-in-law suite in the back. That allows for some affordability. We can also look at reducing parking requirements and minimums for when we do have multifamily development, that it makes it, it's a less of a burden on the developer and they can provide more affordable units. Those are some of the things. Most recently on City Council, we act as two boards, CRA and the City Council. And we allocated $20 million, this is recently, towards affordable housing on top of the millions that we've already approved in our general fund. Those are things that we can do. Because at the end of the day, Tampa people are not being able to afford to live in Tampa. And we want to keep Tampa people here while more people move in here, but keep people in their communities and trying to maintain a level of affordability that we're allowed to do within the parameters of the law. Thank you.
I think the question was, how can a 26-year-old afford a home with all of the extra expenses? I can't express enough that we have to get the right people in Tallahassee. Insurance is going up, and nothing is being done about it, right? We have to get the right people in Tallahassee. To that young person about the being able to own a home, that's a tough one because prices are going up. A lot of times what we see is when there's the market crashes, and that's when a lot of people go out and purchase things. So I really don't have an answer for that other than the advice from the young man here: save, or get in with someone that will help you pay the bills. But that's a tough one because everyone's being priced out of Tampa. It's ridiculous. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, there's no silver bullet for a lot of these items, and housing is another one. Council did find that $20 million in the CRA, which helps. I'm in Ybor City. My house was purchased about 4 years ago for $34,000 and sold for over 10 times that. So another thing we need to do is there needs to be some cultural awareness in historic areas like Ybor. We need to stop selling our houses. We need to stop renovating our houses and tripling the rent so people can't live there. So I do believe in some form of rent sustainability. So I think also as the community, we need to make the right decisions to make sure that housing prices don't get any more out of control than they already are. I know in South Tampa, as you guys continue to grow vertically, the rent goes up, and as we rely on developers to develop in our great city, we also have to make sure that they are enticing people that can actually work downstairs and live upstairs. We build restaurants and bars on the bottom, and then we charge $3,000 for rent up top where people can't live there, and pushes people out, thus our reliance on mass transit. So I think it's a combination of a few different issues.
When I think about affordable housing, I think about attainable housing. There are some folks out here that don't want houses. They want to just go into an apartment or a studio because that's where they're at. And the sad part about it is they're even being forced out of those. So it's not just about, when we think about affordable housing, getting houses, we have to look at alternatives like community land trust. We have to look at incentives that we can use with developers to help build affordable housing, whether it's an apartment or a home. So we have to change our way of thinking and look at the other alternatives. This is an issue that's all over the world. We know this. And the sad part is we are constantly being pushed out, and we go to the edge of the city, and then they build up, and then we're pushed out again. So again, I think we need to look at several incentives. with the developers to ensure that affordable and attainable housing is met.
Ms. Lockett came before council asking for rent restrictions and rent caps. Again, I'm going to say the word preemption. Senate Bill 102 is now going to stop us from doing that, even in an emergency. What is affordable housing? We can have housing where the rent is cheap. But if you have to have a car that's maintenance, upkeep, gas, and parking to get to your job, will that make your house more affordable? If we do not build more resilient, where you're spending a heck of a lot of money on electricity, does that make your home more affordable? It's many, many things. The city can take land that it owns itself and then have RFPs go out to developers, which will bring down the house. We're going to have parking minimums that we're going to talk about, so that that parking space is not going to cost the developer $50,000 to build. Ladies and gentlemen, there's other things that we can think about, but we need to start thinking about everything involved, how we build more resiliency and transportation to make housing more affordable.
We're in a time of transition in the city of Tampa. It's not the Tampa of our parents or grandparents. It is changing. And there is affordable housing. It may not be exactly where everybody wants to be. It's not going to be in Parkland Estates, and it's not going to be in Beach Park, and it's not going to be in Gulfview. But there is affordable housing in the city of Tampa, and it's right. It does get pushed back. But every city that grows, this is what's happened. And the first-time home buyer, I'll tell you, my story is when I moved to Tampa 40 plus, or almost 40 years ago, I shopped and shopped and shopped, found a foreclosure, followed it for like 6 months. It was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house that was in terrible shape. And I found it, and it was high interest rates at the time, if you remember those days. And I renovated it myself, and that's how I got my first house and was able to trade up. But, you know, some of the first-time home buyer, maybe multifamily if you want to live in the hot areas. But this is a worldwide issue. The city council, everybody tells you on city council they're going to have issues with solve the supply chain issues. They're going to solve a global crisis. It's not happening on Tampa City Council. Let's just keep it real. Thank you.
To the young person that asked this question, KJ's on the right note when he talks about credit scores. For first-time buyers, and City Council has nothing to do with this, but my opinion is their FICO score should be considered less as a first-time buyer. I know that's not going to be a popular thing, but they got the rest of their lives to correct that. Also, whatever career you choose, make sure you're the brightest, make sure that you're the most educated, and then you're marketable, and then your income will be commensurate to the house you want to buy in the future. I'm a product of the GI Bill. I was the youngest kid of 5, grew up in a little Texas town. My dad worked at a steel mill. None of us were going to college. I'm the second one in my family to graduate high school, and the first in my family that went to college. I did it on the GI Bill. So I stand before you as that product. But he's right, Mr. Vazquez. What's affordable to me is not affordable to you, and that goes around the room. So just plan for your future, whoever asks that question, and just do the best you can. Thank you.
Hoyt, running for Tampa City Council District 6. The first thing I would say is whoever you are, the 26-year-old, hang in there, don't get discouraged. I know it can be discouraging at times, but I promise you we can't necessarily solve this issue overnight, but I'm going to fight like hell on City Council and make a dent in it. One of the first things I'd like to do is expand the Dare to Own the Dream program, which helps home buyers with down payment assistance. On a more macro level, it is a supply and demand issue. We do have to get more supply of housing online in the city of Tampa. Now, Alan, I know you said South Tampa's closed, right? And so I'm not advocating to build necessarily more housing here, but there are neighborhoods that do want this growth. Tampa Heights wants this density and wants this growth, and so Tampa Heights and the other neighborhoods that want the density and growth should be allowed to have it so that we can get more housing online quickly. We do need to reform the comprehensive plan and land development code so that we can get stuff online more quickly, and fewer projects are going through City Council that don't need to go through City Council. It's going to take a Herculean effort, but you, the residents here and the residents that are coming back here from college, deserve nothing better than our best effort to solve this problem. Thank you.
To the 26-year-old who wants to purchase their first home and feel that they cannot afford it, talk to the first-time homebuyer expert. I purchased my first home as a single mom of 4 children, and then 2-3 years after that, I I was up to 5 houses. I was fixing and flipping and renting, and so I know how to put people in homes. One, we do have to address the wage gap here. In Florida, we are behind the national average in wages, and any financial expert will tell you that you're supposed to spend 30% of your wages on your home. Well, we have to do something and address these wages because it's becoming more and more unaffordable. But let's talk about your credit. Let's talk about your career trajectory. Let's talk about the grants that can put you as a first-time home buyer in your home. Get with someone who is an expert in this area, and you can be a homeowner. I've done it for plenty of people in my career, and it can be done for you. There is hope.
I'm a realtor, and I would love to tell you to come on up to Seminole Heights, but at this point, even that is getting priced out. If in Tampa at this point, if you're making the median income, you can't afford to qualify for a house. And there's no other way to get around it. I used to get a lot of folks coming to Seminole Heights that were coming from South Tampa buying their first homes. One of the things I proposed is in some parts of the city where density is more tolerable and doesn't have the flooding problems, is that we look at having some smaller lot sizes. Historically, parts of Ybor City, West Tampa, Sulphur Springs had smaller lot sizes. If you shrink the price that you're paying for the land, and then you build a smaller house, guess what? It becomes a lot more affordable. Is that desirable? Well, if you want to own a home, yeah, that's one way to do it, and that's one way we can actually lower the price if we're willing to work at it. Thank you.
Yeah, this is where development does matter, right? We want development and we want more supply. Where we have it and how we do it is up to us. I mean, the beauty of Tampa right now is developers want to develop in Tampa from all across the country, and that's a great thing. How we control it, and we have the ability to control it. We have the ability to direct it. That development I was talking about that I fought in front of City Council, that developer came back. It came back with a project that was much more in keeping with the neighborhood. It was actually more dense. It was better built, and it activated the street, and it was multi-use. It was a great project. We actually supported it in front of City Council. So their developers will respond to us. But they need people at City Council that know how to get things done and know how to direct them. So we can do that. It can be done, and we can help with this issue. Thank you.
To the person who asked the question, I think I remember meeting you earlier. You said you had to move to Wesley Chapel, and I hope to talk to you again later. Please email me, bill@billcarlson.com. I want to talk to you about your experience in it. I just went through this a couple of years ago. It's really difficult to buy a home. Now you can't buy anything south of Gandy for less than $1 million. I mean, it seems crazy compared to a few years ago. Somebody knows some? If you know some, yeah. If you, my legislative aide just moved to south of Gandy, and anyway, she went through her process. If you know things like south, let me know. This city council has shown leadership on affordable housing, starting with John Dingfelder. We put a record amount in affordable housing, $56 million this year. 22 of it was a motion I made to use the CRA money, which is stuck in certain areas of the city, and another one of my colleagues made a motion to use another $20 million, so most of the money that's in there is that. We're also working on zoning issues to allow developers to build smaller units. We're looking at parking. We're looking at development where people want development, and in areas like Town and West Shore. Tomorrow we're talking about allowing developers to go up the FA limit. Thank you.
Bill, since we've gone instead of wireless, why don't you hang on to that? We'll the opposite way when we ask this question. I'm on the Nextdoor app. I don't post anything because my boss wouldn't like that, but I do keep an eye on it, and I've seen this very question, concern, posted a lot. How will you handle the homeless, houseless issue in the city?
It's a huge issue. We're lucky that the chief of staff, the mayor's chief of staff, who used to be the deputy county administrator in Pinellas, and he worked on very innovative solutions for that. Of course, he's got a big portfolio of things he's working on. Do you know that there's about 300 homeless people that live in South Tampa? The forest right next to McDill, I personally walk through these forests. Some of it's private, some of it's public. They're encampments of homeless people. And I put together coalitions working with the chief of staff with community service agencies, volunteers to help people relocate, with code enforcement and the police to try to resolve this problem. The problem is then they move from one park to another, and so we get complaints in one area and then they move to another. We're working, and Maya is working closely with Chief of Staff to work on long-term solutions, and when we have more time, I'm glad to talk about that more. Thank you.
Look, Jacksonville just passed a citywide panhandling ban. I think we should do the same, and we need to enforce it. We need to enforce it. Back to law and order. We need to enforce the ordinances that we have on the books today. Vagrancy and there are ordinances against this that we need to be enforcing. We need to get help. We need to get them help. It's mental health crisis is real across the country. We've got places that we can move them to, and we need to get them help. So that's my thing.
It's a really tough question, and I'm going to nerd out a little bit because one of my background degrees is a master's in social work. When we deinstitutionalize people out of the state hospitals, we promised that we would have community mental health services. They've never been adequately funded, and that is a huge portion of the people that are out there on the street. And there's not a lot that the city can really do other than punitive measures for vagrancy. But what we can do and what we need to do is we really need to tell our legislature to better fund community mental health services so that there are places and resources so that these people can get their medications, they can be stable, and they can live in the community. Thank you.
One of my issues that are near and dear to me is mental health illnesses. Now, I don't look at the homeless and say, well, the reason why they're homeless is because right out the gate, they're suffering from mental illness. When you look at homelessness, it's an onion. There are multiple layers, and it's not going to be answered in a 1-minute conversation. There has to be community effort that comes together. I don't believe in criminalizing homelessness or unhousing. I believe that people should be connected to their resources, but we have to get out into the community. We need our church and our civic leaders going out there and connecting people with the resources, because when you're desperate, you forget how to solve your own problems, and you need other people who can help you, bring you together with those resources. But criminalizing people for being homeless is not the answer, and everyone doesn't suffer from a mental illness because they're homeless. There's multiple reasons, and each one needs to be handled on an individual cases.
Well, I do think it is a Hoyt, Prindle, Tampa City Council District 6. I do think it is a balance, because for anyone that's been to Los Angeles or Seattle, I don't think we want our city becoming a tent city, because that doesn't serve the benefits of anyone. But we do need to remember to have compassion for those that are homeless. I live in Wellswood, and I live just north of where Martin Luther King crosses the Hillsborough River. And there's a homeless gentleman, his name is Cameron, and he has lived under that bridge for the last 5 years. And he doesn't bother anyone. He doesn't throw trash everywhere. He cleans up after himself. People in the neighborhood try to help him. But that's just a story of someone that, sorry for the noise here. That's just a story of, he's just one story of many of these people that are out and homeless. And so we do need to work together. The solutions aren't easy, but certainly starting with working with Metropolitan Ministries and other private sector companies would help us to try to make a dent in that. But we do need to have compassion for these people. They're not all bad people.
I was the only person running in District 1 with a background in law enforcement. I have to say that we cannot criminalize homelessness, as she had pointed out. Homelessness has been an issue for many years now, and there's different categories. And the first one would be, say, transitory. A man loses his job and his wife gets angry and kicks him out of the house, lives in the car a few weeks, he moves on, gets another job, moves on. The police will probably never come in contact with this person. They're not violating the law in any way. And then we have the chronic homelessness. Then that's what we're really talking about. So in downtown, there are people down there, like Jerry, for example. I know he's been down there for 20 years, long before I was a cop, and he's still down there. Did they become homeless because of mental illness? Or did they become homeless because drugs and alcohol addiction, which led to the mental illness? But that's what it all comes back to. If you run into veteran that is homeless, contact me or call the VA immediately. There are lots of programs out there to help homeless veterans. But the other fellows that are out there, we need to get them help. That's true. We cannot force them into programs, but we can offer the assistance.
I think you reach a point in some of the questions that, what has been said needs to be said, and I agree with just about everything we heard up here. One of the things we have to make sure is we do enforce the ordinance that we have, the panhandling ordinance we have to enforce. We need to make sure that Tampa doesn't turn into a tent city or some of the problems that we see in some of the West Coast cities. But we also have to approach it with compassion, and we have great partners in the private side with Feeding Tampa Bay, Metropolitan Ministries, Salvation Army. The city needs to work with these folks. But one thing we can do is we need to give, I come from that school of providing a hand up, not necessarily a hand out. We need to be able to hand up. Let's keep people in the housing when we can. Like during the pandemic and during periods of crisis, we need to do everything we can as a society to help people out, to be able to be that bridge to get them back into productivity. Jacksonville has an experimental program that seems to be working really well. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can look at other areas and see what they're doing and see what works. And on City Council, that's what I'm going to do. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's not a crime to be homeless. There are people out there that have lost a job, lost their housing. There are people out there that just need medications. But our government can't force people to take medications. The City of Tampa has a place out on Broadway, that is housing homeless people. But we can't stop there. We have to show them how they can have work, how they can have hope, and how they can have faith in themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, again, it's not a crime to be homeless. But we need shelter, we need training, and we need to give them hope.
It goes back to affordable and attainable housing. Any one of us in here can be homeless tomorrow. We don't know. So it's not a criminal charge for them to be homeless. It can happen to any one of us. I had to learn a lesson myself when I was in my 20s, and I found myself judging them, thinking, oh, you just don't want any better. So I had to go out there on the street and I started talking to them. And it amazed me to find out they were doctors and lawyers and surgeons and everything else, but it opened my eyes and it taught me about compassion. And I'm thankful for that. And I'm not encouraging you all to do that, but I'm just saying sometimes we have to put the resources where they need to be and help them to take that step up. Sometimes they just need another encouraging hand. Thank you.
Yeah, the V&B board, I deal with this all the time. I collect blankets during the winter to give out to the homeless. I probably know about 50 of them on a first-name basis. I let them use my hose to take showers. So a couple initiatives that I have learned about in this campaign process is a mental health professional going out with the police force to make sure that when they engage the homeless that they're engaged properly. Another one is we have the YES team at EBOR. There's 27 different personnel and staff that actually confronts the homeless to free up some time for officers. They make sure that they find them a safe and nice home at night. So I think there are some initiatives moving us in the right direction. And once again, while there is no silver bullet, I also think we need collaboration with those groups in Tampa to make sure that they're all pulling in the same direction. Thank you.
Resources, resources, resources. Quick story. I had a family member, she's now since passed, that had an apartment, lived on her own. She was, an older woman, and she had mental illness, right? She had mental illness. No matter what we did, she wanted to be outside. She would not stay in that apartment. She would let her lights go off. She wouldn't, she bathed at the park, North Tampa Park. So there's so many, as someone said, onions in regards to why people are homeless. They're homeless because of being outpriced. They're homeless because of domestic violence, right? The situation with that, not being able to go home. There's so many. We need to expand resources. And all of the organizations that get the resources now, they need to be expanded because there's so many organizations that want to help that don't have the resources that come in. Thank you.
So we have to show love and compassion, because that could be any of us on the street. We have all faced struggles, whatever it is, and some have overcome the obstacles and others have not, and people are on the streets, as we see in the growing homeless population. The city of Tampa, with the police department, has what we call a homeless liaison, somebody that goes out there, talks to these individuals, and tries to link them up to the services that we need. It's a big city, and we only have a handful of people that do that. However, being homeless is not a crime. It should not be a crime, but it is a public safety issue. One of the things that I see is when they're out on the street corners at intersections, they're in the middle of the streets. I know that police will go out and take them off the street and whatnot. But at the same time, we have to show compassion. We have to show them that there are services through our nonprofits, services through the city, and where we can give them a hand up and help people get out of these situations, or at least into a better situation. We talked about a panhandling ban. We brought that up years ago, but then it was repealed because of lawsuits throughout the country, firms coming in and suing municipalities that found those things unconstitutional. Thank you.
We mentioned the homeless liaison folks that we have on our city staff as police officers. Dan McDonald used to be our homeless liaison, and he told me the story that he will go out and he will meet 3 homeless people. One person will say, I need help temporarily, I need to get it out of here. Second one would say, yeah, I may want to do it, and then maybe, maybe not. And the third one would never take the help. Those chronic homeless people are incredibly tough to try and help. The county is the human services part of where your taxes go. They have an indigent health care system. They have a lot of other services that we do not provide by law. We gave that up years ago. We need to make sure that other organizations, I'm on the board of Feeding Tampa Bay, and Trinity Cafe feeds people every single day. We need to make sure that people understand that it is not their fault necessarily that they are homeless. Thank you.
Like all the other candidates touched on, there's a lot of reasons for homelessness, whether it's a mental issue or they just choose to be homeless. But I think the biggest thing is just continuing to include them in our community and make them feel like, give them that spark how they used to feel, because a lot of people are on hard times. But I would say we should probably start looking at unused and underutilized buildings and facilities that we have available to at least give them somewhere to rest their head. I was looking not too long ago at commercial properties, and there was a particular motel where it had like maybe 50 rooms, and of course they had bathrooms. We need facilities like that where they're already for sale, and maybe we can create some type of partnership. But at the very least, I think facilities is the biggest reason why a lot of these people are homeless, is because we have to provide, a shower. Like Mike said, he's letting some homeless people use his hose. So I think we need to start using these facilities that are underused and underutilized to kind of at least provide a safe haven for them.
We need to address the problem of homeless. This is very important for our city, not to become like LA, where the scale of the homelessness I haven't seen even in Central Africa, where I lived for a year. Well, over there they have houses and they sleep in the houses. They don't go on the street and do their needs and into the city. So we have to have a program to help people in needs. Somebody loses a job, he needs to have rental assistance so he don't become homeless, or somebody has sick, he get disease. We need to help those residents, and we need to have our economy strong so we can have the funds. We need to keep taxes low so the economy can grow. From the other side, how we can let some of our kind live in the street and sleep exposed to the elements in the street brutality. This is how they develop mental illnesses and also get involved in the crimes. We need somehow to have shelters, and those people, they can have help, and also help them with the funds provided by the state, like food stamps and cash assistance. They can manage better. Thank you.
Last year, the beginning of the year, end of 2020, City of Tampa opened Tampa Hope. And that is basically a space where homeless can live. There are 120 tents. We actually just bought more. They're going to have modular rooms there soon that will be able to house 220 people. It's run by Catholic Charities. So it actually is a wraparound service. Whatever they need, they can get help right there. Our homeless liaisons go out. They call them touches. So they'll talk to someone, they'll have a touch, see if they're ready for that housing. If they are, they can move them into Tampa Hope and then move them on to permanent housing. In the last year, in this housing market, we were able to house 27% of the people who went through Tampa Hope. We just need to build upon that and encourage more touches, more people being able to be helped, and expand Tampa Hope.
Homeless. That touched me very bad right now. The whole program don't work at all. I'm telling you. My name is Jose Vazquez. I'm the security coordinator of Boricua Corazon Inc. And the whole program contact my nonprofit for we can help them to figure out how to deal with the homeless population. We don't have the funding, but the Catholic charities want me to do the job. That's how passionate I am about the homeless. Let me tell you this. Do you know tomorrow I'm going to be at 6 in the morning counting the homeless population in Hillsborough County? We do this count tomorrow. And Mr. Casper, I appreciate your support for resolve that problem in the same way that McDonald's back in the days asking for change. Please, found some change for we can bring hope to that people. I know a 5-building historic and we can rent it. And development a survey with the City of Tampa, the University of South Florida, and other nonprofit. I know you told me stop, and I'm sorry because this needs to be resolved tonight. Because we pay the taxes, and that all is resolved. So please, you want to stop the homeless? Don't feel sorry for them. Tell them I want to help you. What you need, and let's give it to them.
Thank you all. I just want to say thank you to all of the candidates. I want to thank you for your passion. I want to thank you, each of you, for wanting to make this city better. I want to thank you for showing up tonight and being respectful of one another and being respectful of our time, moderator. Thank you all very much. Also, I want to thank everybody here in the audience because you all have been marvelous. It's an interesting evening. I look forward to working with you in the future. I promise if we do that, I'll have follow-up questions because I might have had a few follow-up questions tonight. But this is really the foundation of our democracy. The fact that you all come here tonight, listen to their exchange of ideas, and support them in the way that you do. Thank you all very much tonight.